The ThunderDome and pandemic era was so bizarre looking back. It was like we all fell into the phantom zone for a while, and go and watch it today. Sheesh. It is impossible. Given that the roster was always shifting though due to COVID, some truly random people just turned up on the show. So do you want to test your brain? Sure you do. I'm Simon Miller. Let's go. Number 10, Denzel Dionette. I mean, he even changed his name during this time. He was Denzel Troy at one point, and even though he did have a decent showing during the pandemic, he got released in August 2021. Just so random. Denzel was on a good few episodes of Raw though in 2020 as he wrestled Seth Rollins' Bobby Lashley, and he even popped over to SmackDown to fight Sheamus. This was mostly in April and felt like a trial by fire for the NXT talent, although none of these went that long. His biggest scrap was against Jinder Mahal on Main Event. That was 6 minutes. The plan must have been to get the guy over though, as commentators loved this dude because they couldn't praise him enough. Then it changed, which sort of summed it up. That was just the pandemic, didn't make any sense, and it was the worst. Number 9, Kurt Stallion. Kurt Stallion could have been a WWF superstar from 1987, or a porn star. Don't pretend you didn't think it. It's also a name I would have given myself as a child dreaming about a debut, so fair play to that guy. I respect it. He did join the WWE halfway through 2020 though, and was sent to the Performance Center, which is the way. And before that, Kurt was basically paying his dues everywhere. It was when he was performing in Promotion Evolve where WWE did scout him out. So finally, here is your opportunity. Stallion was able to get 17 matches under his belt too, although most of them were on 205 Live, if you do remember that. Mostly because it just feels like a different time. In February 2021, Kurt also challenged Santos Escobar on NXT for the Cruiserweight title, but he lost. Of course he did. For some reason in June, he was then shown his walking papers, and he did have some AEW shots after that. And ever since, well, I don't really know. Number 8, Jake Atlas. The story of Jake Atlas is wild. He had some real buzz which led him to joining WWE in 2020, and he was another guy who had a shot against Santos for that Cruiserweight title. For whatever reason, WWE then decided they weren't interested, so he was let go when he appeared in AEW in 2021. You can go see the reaction to this as well. He had the fans behind him. They wanted him to do well. From nowhere, however, he was arrested on domestic violence charges, although they were later dropped. And ever since, well, we've not really heard a peep. The last time we saw him was the 7th of January 2022 edition of Rampage, where he lost to Adam Cole. Plus, he got injured during that. This was such a roller coaster. It certainly sounded like he was going through some personal issues, so I just hope he's doing okay now. I mean, sometimes you do just need to get away. There's nothing more important than your brain. Number 7, Jesse Camilla. So I do not remember this at all. Jesse Camilla was part of Robert Stone's ongoing management brand, though, which is why she teamed up with Aaliyah. Now they could all be under one roof. They competed in the Women's Dusty Classic in 2021, and that did not go well. They were eliminated in round 1. Whoops. WWE must have been keen because they were back together on the NXT TakeOver In Your House pre-show. Well, they actually got to face off against Zoe Stark and Sarai. Jessie sort of wrestled mostly for Evolve during her run in WWE because they wanted her to get more experience. Suppose it didn't work out? The story doesn't really go much further than this. Number 6, August Gray. What a name that is. I suppose it ties into the weather. It would be grey in August. Nope. Wait, I've got that the wrong way round. He did team with the already mentioned Kurt Stallion on NXT and 205 Live throughout his stint. They even welcomed in Ashante the Adonis to take on the original Legado del Fantasma. Gray did work a few shows in front of the cameras, although he mostly lost to Timothy Thatcher on NXT TV. And on the 17th of March 2021 show, he got beaten by LA Knight. Yeah. It was different on 205 Live as he finally got some wins when he pinned Tony Nese, Jake Atlas, and Araya Davari. But then come June, he was gone too. The releases during the pandemic were ridiculous. I shall leave the big reveal to the end because today this is indeed Anthony Green, who has done quite well for himself. He had a few shots in AEW before he went and did a lot in Japan with Noah. I think that's pretty cool. Number 5, Scotty To Hottie. This is a joke. I'm sorry, but sometimes you need this. I have decided. We all know that during lockdown, WWE fell in love with cinematic matches, and I get it. We had to do something. Eventually, they pushed the boat out too when we got to Backlash 2021 and that bizarre zombie match. Damian Priest and The Miz were tasked with making the sponsors happy as they had to work around actual members of the Undead, and I still need to know, does this mean zombies are now canon in WWE world? because nobody has told me. Clearly this was just meant to be a bit of fun, because do you know who was dressed as a member of the Horde? Scotty To Hottie. You knew that was coming. He was helping out backstage at the time and likely thought this would be entertaining. And he's right. It was. When you see him, it's like the Leonardo DiCaprio pointing gif. Whether or not there was any talk of Scott having a proper match during lockdown, I don't know, but let's face it. It would have helped. I know I keep going on about it, but this period was just so miserable. Number 4, Catalina. One day, Catalina was just on Raw. WWE also called her Carolina, teamed her up with Sin Cara, and had them face Andrade and Zelina Vega in November 2019. It didn't last long. Soon she was back to NXT, where she did become Catalina when she shifted again, because she became Katrina Cortez. And that's the most NXT name ever, but still, make up your damn mind. This sort of helped as Cortez had a decent run and even faced Bianca Belair and Asuka on separate episodes of WWE Main Event. And it felt like it was going fine. When we got to November 2021, which is also the 2-year birthday of the mentioned match, and yep, Katrina was part of these mad releases for no proper reason. Thankfully, she didn't stop and is doing really well in CMLL these days. That actually rhymed, so now I believe it must be true. Number 3, Joseph Park, or Chris as WWE dubbed him. And yes, this was the former TNA monster Abyss. Back in 2005, he and AJ Styles had main evented the Lockdown pay-per-view, and clearly they remained friends. With Park going on to be a WWE producer, somebody decided because we are stuck in lockdown, let's stick them back together again. This brings us to the 14th of August 2020 SmackDown, when Joe was here to help Styles win some matches with what he dubbed the phenomenal Intercontinental Statistics System. And yes, that meant it stood for piss. Old WWE could often be terrible. It's a shame this was so short-lived. Aside from the horrendous name, they did have good chemistry on screen, and it was fun, and that's all that ever matters, especially when you don't have any flippin' fans. You could have even teased some Abyss stuff eventually, but no, we weren't gonna do that. And to be honest, I don't have a good answer for you. Number 2, Dabo Kato. I mean, you likely do remember him as Commander Aziz when he was teamed with Apollo Crews. But also, what the hell was that about? During lockdown, though, Shane McMahon had him as Dabo Kato because he introduced Raw Underground. Recall that? WWE was going to be MMA for a while on Monday night. It was such an odd decision. It only went from August to September 2020, and at first Dabo was doing okay. He was big, so got to smash fools. But sadly for him, Braun Strowman was bigger. Therefore, the monster among men beat him, and that was that. Raw Underground was dead. This was so blink and you miss it, I suppose it makes sense why we did just forget. And after recent news from Shane O'Mac, I think it's clear he really just wants to run his own fight league. The man is desperate for it, so I don't really get why he just doesn't go and do it. Number 1, Jeet Rama. Jeet Rama's entire wrestling career was in WWE. He got a deal way back in 2015, but he must have been worried because in 2 years he only got 7 matches. By 2017, he was promoted to NXT house shows, when he waited another 4 years until lockdown rolled around. It was thanks to the Superstar Spectacle, a random WWE pay-per-view based on Indian superstars, so Jeet got an opportunity against AJ Styles. Makes sense. AJ can make anybody look good, which was sort of true here. Rama then lost. After that, it was back to 205 Live until NXT 2.0 was born, because that allowed Jeet to face Solo Sikoa, but the writing must have been on the wall. There weren't any major plans here, so if you do remember, man, you must watch wrestling like a hawk, and more power to you. I just hope you're happy. Know of any other random superstars that popped up on WWE during lockdown? Make sure you let us know in the comments below before you like the video, share the video, and subscribe. You can then click the video on the screen to get even more information into your brain, but otherwise, thank you for joining me, my friends, and I will be talking to you again very soon.